1.10 Part 2. So we were looking at Hans Holbein the Younger, the ambassadors. Now, the reason it says the younger, because there was a senior, that's how they would say it. Okay, so I didn't want to skip over this too quickly. Now, in the book, you go over Jean de Dentville and George de Selve, and I'm sorry, I ended kind of poorly with the pronunciation of their names. Anyway, they're the ambassadors from France in England, and there's a lot of things here alluding to music and math and science, astronomy, all kinds of things, and geography, learning. And one of the beautiful things about this piece is that you can actually read the letters in books. Everything is very detailed here, and that's just so highly skilled. It's amazing. I mean, you can kind of see from this distance just the sense of fur and silkiness and sorry, our fur is over here, but the sense of everything being very textured and beautifully drawn. Now, there's a few hidden things, like I talked about. The hidden concealed crucifix, now to do with how England is going to be no longer Catholic very soon under Henry VIII. And the lute, the string. Now, the lute itself is there to show music, but the broken string is to show that possibility of leaving the church, the discord. In other words, the music isn't going to play as well as it used to play. And then this skull, and I'm going to back up and show you where it is again, because you probably didn't notice it on the first glance. This piece here, down here on the floor, that funny shadow, that shape that doesn't make any sense initially, that is a skull. Now, one of the things you don't know, because you're not viewing this by walking around the painting, this is the frame of the painting, so if you're viewing it in a particular way, it's sort of a foreshortened kind of a view. It's hard to explain, but if you were to lift the page of the book from the edge, the open edge, and then you were to look at the painting just so, kind of at a diagonal, I guess I want to call it. But in reality, this is meant for you to walk by and see in this way, and to get this secondary concept here. And there's many secondary concepts and many subtleties in this painting, as we just went over. But this is a memento mori, which is a focus on the temporariness of life, or the inevitability of death. Also, just to focus all these riches and all these things in the world, these worldly items that we see here portrayed, they go away, and eventually we all die. I know, a little bit morbid, but kind of wild too, to see that there's this weirdly drawn thing that isn't initially for us to see with our sort of naked eye or first glance. Okay, so we have a lot of religious things. We talked about that. So we're going to get into contextual analysis, which studies the atmosphere and ideas from a particular time and culture that an artwork reflects. And artists and viewers play roles in providing this content. Because as we look at a piece of work over time, we view it very differently. Like, for instance, nudity might be viewed one way at one point in time as a sort of a admiration of the human form. Later it might be viewed as pornography. So there's a context to artwork, and that shifts over time. And you'll see even historic work will come in and out of favor. Traditional pieces that we didn't consider important before, we consider them important now, and vice versa. Okay, so mainly what we're talking about with contextual analysis is religious, historical, and biographical. So when we think about a religious context, you want to consider the artwork within the religious context that it was made. I know that many of you, because you're younger students, perhaps, and that you haven't been out of your area, and that's not true for everybody. Some people have traveled and they're aware of other religions and other contexts, but a lot of students I have write about Buddhism or Islam, and they say they mention Jesus, and Jesus doesn't exist in those religions. And I think it's kind of interesting. Sometimes we put our own biases onto something that we're looking at. So I want you to kind of let that go as best you can and really take the artwork for what it is in its own religion, not in our particular United States orientation for a lot of people. Okay, not everybody, but quite a few. So this particular piece, the votive figures from the Temple of Abu, is they're carved gypsum, and that is actually plaster, and it's kind of miraculous that they have survived this long. And they are praying. They're Sumerians, the rituals of Sumerians. This is a 4,000-year-old plus piece of artwork, and these were found in a Sumerian temple in modern-day Iraq. So the religion that they represented perhaps no longer exists. We don't know everything about it, but we know that the clasped hands indicate prayer. That's something that we still do now, and that each figure represents a human who brought it to the temple. So a votive candle down here offering to the gods when you make a vow, like you light a candle in a church. Well, sometimes an object or a sculpture is made of a person, and that small sculpture is sort of a prayer or a wish for something positive to happen for them. Okay.